Christopher, it's a privilege to be here under your tutelage. And I want to say that I rise, it's always a privilege, but I rise also to welcome my honourable friend, the member for Devizes. Sometimes when I listen to what he says in his speeches, I often think that I could have written them. Perhaps I did, I don't know. But then again, I realise he used to write speeches for me as well, so in a sense, we're a little bit too heavily joined at the hip. I promise him that won't embarrass him anymore on that basis. But I want to say that everything he said, I fundamentally agree with, particularly really with regards to the challenge of families. And I think, in a sense, the honourable lady for Walthamstow, who is a neighbour of mine, literally, much of what she says internally there, I think they can be meshed together. There are ways through this, and I wish that we could form some kind of common purpose in all of this rather than attack each other. At the heart of these debates lies whether or not too often it's not left and right. It's often just a very big difference about whether people think we should intervene with government or not intervene with government. And so I simply make the point to those assembled here that there are real issues that we face. My honourable friend mentioned the tax system. Here's a very good example of what happens when people get into government. They immediately use the argument that we shouldn't intervene because we show a bias towards one side. In fact, the UK has the worst tax system for families that wish to stay together. And particularly where a person in that family wishes to look after their children for a while, we have the worst system in Europe. Every other major country in Europe has an allowance that allows people to move their allowances across. In Germany, they have income splitting, which gives families an immediate balance, which is more expensive, to be fair, but in France, they have a marriage tax allowance form as well. But we are alone here in having not had one for a period after the Labour government took it away. And then, to give an example, in government, I sat arguing with the Chancellor. I did a lot of that, actually, when I was in government. But I did a lot of arguing with him about this very point. And finally, with the Prime Minister's intervention, we reinstated the marriage tax allowance. But it was done at such a measly and a miserly level and then hidden so deep in the documents, nobody actually really claimed it because they didn't know that it was in existence. Literally, they refused to let anybody know. It's fine in the end, they tell them about it. And that is one of the problems that we face here with government. And so it's not a case of siding with one side or the other. All I ever ask for is if we get family life and the involvement of government balanced, people will make their own choices. And the choices I know that they will make will be, in vast majority of cases, balanced, positive, constructive choices, because I don't know of anybody out there, except for the exceptional minority, who do not want to see their families stable, who do not want to see their children brought up, and would not prefer to have both those parents looking after them all the way through their childhood. So it's government that intervenes in the wrong way and distorts the nature of that decision, and then accuses everybody else of asking them to intervene and take sides. That is not the case. I think I'm on 4 minutes, it's not saying that. I'm just going to finish by saying the one area I want to raise is, and I appreciate his comments about universal credit, and definitely universal support. Universal support alongside universal credit is the critical way in which we can get help and assistance along some of those lines that the member of Walthamstow talked about. We should all be on the side of getting that rolled out. And the final thing I want to say on schools, we have a real problem at the moment. The pressure on parents now as a result of what's happening in our schools, with whole year groups suddenly being sent home because one child is infected, against all the evidence at the moment that children are not now vectors at all to adults, it's the other way round. It's causing chaos in families up and down the land. There's a very good organisation called Us For Them of parents who are really worried now because whole parents have had to leave their work, go back home. It's caused real stress in those families. It's, I think, and had a real effect on family breakup. And it's causing problems for those children where more children have to be intervened with because they are now under the protected schemes because there are real problems. We need to think again under COVID what in heaven's name we're doing with our schools, because the children are losing out massively, the parents are suffering dramatically, and we are going to buy ourselves a heap of problems in 10 years' time down the road if we don't get proper advice to schools. Schools are operating without clear advice as to what they should do when children get COVID, and they immediately send everybody home. This has got to stop. We've got to get a much balanced view, and I end by simply saying I welcome my honourable's speech. It was absolutely right. It's on the money. I won't repeat anything he said. I back every bit of it. I just wish we had longer to speak. Thank you very much.